Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where we are currently ready to launch Salyut-3, which we modified from Salyut-1 last episode. And we're now ready to put this thing up there. Now, I do want to point out that the target orbit for this is 270 by 219. Okay, with an inclination of 51.6 degrees. I mean, that makes sense because it's going to be launching from Russia, right? So they have a very hard time hitting, like, equatorial orbits. Sure, we can toss in an inclination of 51.6 degrees. That seems okay. We'll have to do an inclination change once we get up there. I'm not going to launch into that inclination, but we'll definitely have the fuel for that. So that seems fine. Let's do it. 51.6, huh? That'll definitely be interesting. That'll make docking a little interesting too. I mean, it's not a big deal, right? We'll just have to toss in a little bit of inclination change. It's fine. We're going to be launching from an equatorial site here, although I suppose technically maybe we should be launching this from a non-equatorial launch site to simulate that a little bit better. You know what? Let's do it. Let's revert this back to vehicle assembly. And maybe we don't want to launch this from the Kerbal launch facility. So how do we actually launch this from another pad? I think we go out over here. I've never actually done this before. Let's give this a try. I know it's possible to launch from different pads. So let's see what we've got. So let's go into the launch pad here. And yeah, this is launch vessel. I think we actually might have to go into the tracking station and select the other pads. So we've got a launch pad like up here in Woomerang, right? And that might be the one that we'd be looking to go for because we've got a desert site, which is still fairly equatorial. We've got our island airfield. We've got the Kerbal Space Center. Let's try the Woomerang launch site. I don't know how to get there. Okay, I might have to do a little bit of research here. See you guys in just a moment. Okay, that wasn't so bad. So basically all I had to do to figure out how to do it was I had to go into settings, difficulty options, and turn on allow other launch sites here. And that's all I needed to do. So at this point, we can resume. Can we do it from here? I don't think we can do it from here. I found the option in the VAB. So I think we have to launch it, as far as I know, from the VAB, or maybe by selecting the launch site in the tracking station, but it's probably easiest to do it from the VAB here. When we mouse over this menu pops up that allows us to choose the Woomerang launch site or the desert launch site. We are going for Woomerang here. So that'll be interesting to launch from. I've never launched from this launch site before, and I know that in order to launch into a particular inclination, we're going to want to do things a little differently. Maybe we should have MechJeb do ascent guidance for this one so that we can just learn how it would handle this. That would be an interesting learning opportunity, I think, just to observe how MechJeb would handle this. This flight should be relatively routine in terms of getting to orbit, right? So I think let's give it a go. This is definitely centered on the launch pad. No doubt about it. It is very, very, very centered. Perfect. That is ideal. So let's go ahead and turn on our ascent guidance, and I want to see how this is going to go. So we know that our target altitude is going to be 270 kilometers, right? And we don't actually want to circularize, so we're going to skip circularization. Our orbital inclination, I wonder what it would give us if we were current. We want 51.6, 45.29. Okay, so we want 51.6 for our current orbital inclination. It's not possible to launch into an equatorial orbit from this location, obviously. So at this point, I think we just need to engage this autopilot. And let's see here. Target and OPTS. I can't remember. We're not trying to launch to a particular target. Okay, select a target for a timed launch. Yeah, we don't actually want to do that. Have I forgotten how to use this? Well, we just need to engage autopilot, I'm pretty sure. So we want to be in this mode here. 270 kilometers, 51.6 degrees. Perfect. We don't want to limit our throttle. We're not going to change really anything here other than skipping circularization. So let's engage this autopilot. And off we... Hang on. We have crew on here. We're not... This is supposed to be an unmanned flight. Okay. Let's go back to the vehicle assembly. Let's get rid of them. And let's try this again. I'll be back in just a moment to skip the loading. Okay, so here we are back, this time with no crew. And we've got all this set up. This all remembered where we were. So let's engage this autopilot. And let's go. Phenomenal. Off we go here. This is going to be very interesting to see how MechJeb decides to position us. Like, in terms of where it decides to go on the heading. That's going to be fascinating for us here. So off we go here. Cool. For now, we're just going straight up. We're definitely a little low on the thrust to weight. Are these at all thrust limited? No, they are not. Okay, noted. We're definitely a little bit low on the thrust to weight, but I think we'll be okay on this front. In theory. We're not moving very quickly. In retrospect, and for future Salyut stations, which there are future Salyut stations, we're likely going to need to upgrade these engines a little bit. Even maybe just this central engine, upgrading to a mainsail, would likely be a significant gain for us in terms of thrust to weight power. So that would be great. We also have maybe a little too much fuel in this stage here. Actually, this fuel is not currently being utilized. Right, that would make sense, because we're pulling from these external fuel tanks first. We've actually got quite a lot of fuel left in these external fuel tanks. Yeah, about 40 seconds of burn. And this angle of attack is interesting. It's going for 61 degrees, which of course our target is 51.6 degrees. So that's definitely absolutely fascinating. We can attempt to replicate that ourselves in future flights. That would be fine. But yeah, they're definitely not going for a 90-degree heading here, which we normally would in a standard equatorial into 0-degree inclination launch, right? So that would make a lot of sense. But 62 degrees right now? Mostly this heading is what we're looking for how MechJeb handles this. It's very interesting, no doubt about that. We should auto-stage here in a moment. We've got about 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And there we go. Okay, we're picking up a pretty big wiggle here. I'm going to turn this gimbal limit down to 10 here. That cleans it up a lot. Is this something MechJeb is trying to do? It seems okay with it, mostly. Yeah, it seems okay with it. Apoapsis height is reasonably high up there, so yeah, this should be fine. Let's go ahead and deploy the fairing here. We no longer need the fairing, and this is weight that is unnecessary. So let's get rid of that weight. That seems reasonably fine for the time being. Yeah, MechJeb is just trying to hold us at 0.65 right now. I'm going to hop over to maneuver mode, and let's look at the advanced orbital info. So we can see we're at 50.9 degrees right now. We've not launched into quite the exact inclination we want to. So if we have to do, well, it is currently changing the inclination. If we make the inclination in the launch, that's great. This is probably not something that I would be able to do manually, to hit the inclination just bang on like that. But we could get pretty close. Yeah, we're going to get there, for sure. Unfortunately, our apoapsis height isn't going up very much right now, and that is because our horizontal speed needs to be further increased. It's going to start going up a fair amount quite soon. We've got about 70 seconds of burn left here, and I do think upgrading this skipper to a mainsail would probably be a significant gain for us. We're in space right now. We could consider turning up this gimbal limit, but I don't think it's necessary. We did auto-deploy our photovoltaic panels and our high-gain antenna, as usual with MechJeb. But this was definitely an interesting learning experience. It's currently sitting at a heading of about 72 degrees because it wants to bring our inclination down by another 0.3. Our time to apoapsis is still coming down, but it's definitely... We are not at orbital velocity here. Okay. We're a ways away from orbital velocity, in fact. We might not have enough oomph to push through this. Yeah, this stage might just be a little bit too underpowered for this. What is the thrust to weight here going to be? 0.35? Noted. Okay, well, that was an interesting experiment. No doubt about that. So we now know approximately what sort of heading we need to be at. We also know that there's a significant issue with this rocket. Specifically, the issue is that it needs quite a lot. Let's go ahead and disengage the autopilot here, and we're going to go into kill rot. We're going to bring this over and park this at like 45 degrees. Okay, note this vertical speed going down here. That's a really good sign here. That means that we're not going to have a significant issue here, but I did have to take manual control. So we're going to park about here for right now. And we need to push our apoapsis up, right? So we're going to get rid of this vertical speed. And we're just parking at this heading right now. Yes, this inclination is likely not going to be absolutely perfect, but our vertical speed is only at about minus 10 meters per second right now. We can bring that back up, and we are positive. Time to apoapsis is going up. Beautiful. So we're going to park here until we're about 1 minute to apoapsis. And that's just going to go faster and faster. We don't need this open anymore. We're just manually intervening at this point. So MechJeb definitely expects that first stage to be a little bit faster. There's no doubt about that. We can see our inclination is slightly off of where we want it to be. But honestly, it's quite close. So yeah, this seems acceptable-ish. Emphasis on the ish. Acceptable-ish. So we're about 1 minute to apoapsis as of now. So let's go back over to horizontal velocity up. And we can see our inclination is coming down, being up here. We really do want to be over this direction, right? So inclination is still currently going down. Let's continue to move this way for the moment. Are we going the wrong direction here? Hang on. 51.0? Okay, yeah. We actually need to be going the other direction. That surprises me, but okay. We need to be going this way with our burn. So not quite this much this way, but we need to be parking somewhere around here-ish. 51.3. 51.4. 51.5. Let's head towards prograde here. 51.6. Okay, we just want to park at prograde for right now, or really horizontal velocity up. We want to be sitting at exactly this 51.6 marker. So that's looking good. We're targeting an apoapsis of 270 here. So this looks good. 51.6 is our target inclination, so we did manage to get there with a little bit of corrective steering. Although we did waste some fuel with that, but we have so much extra fuel, it's not really a concern. We're taking this up to 270, with our periapsis goal, of course, being 219. Okay. 170. 200. That's just going to get faster and faster. 220. 240. 260. And slowing it on down here a bit. 270. I like it. So that'll do. 51.6 inclination looks solid. And of course, our periapsis is currently 96. We're going to need to do a burn at the apoapsis here and bring that periapsis right on up. Our target orbit is 219 for this. So right about there. Okay, excellent. So the Woomerang launch site is actually very good for this. No doubt about that. It does require some corrective steering to get us to our target orbit. But yeah, we'll do that manually in the future, and that was definitely an interesting learning experience. No doubt about that. Let's align to the node here. This is actually kind of slow to turn, but keep in mind, we have this stage here and this stage. We have so much extra fuel on this. So much. Out of curiosity, why is this not showing us as having any delta V here? It's showing us as having 0 seconds of burn. Is this fuel contained in this stage? Maybe because of this docking port. Yes. Okay, noted. So we have 1983 meters per second in this. That's pretty solid, all things considered. It'll be interesting to launch a Soyuz to this, but if we don't nail the inclination, you know, we can always do an inclination change and do a small correction there. That seems reasonably fine. Now that we know approximately that we're angling for like 62, 63-ish, we can definitely do a corrective burn of the inclination when we're up on the, like the coast-ish phase, right? So that's reasonably fine. 40 seconds, 30, 20, 10, and mark. Cool. So really, this stage, probably, if we weren't basing it off of the actual design, this stage probably should be eliminated, to be clear, and be combined with this poodle here. Okay, how are we doing on our... We're a little high on the periapsis. I guess we can go to retrograde here. And actually, I'm going to ditch this stage for weight purposes, so we can turn a little bit easier. There we go. Get out of here. And we're going to drop our periapsis down ever so slightly. I see that we did just from the staging event a little bit. Much better. Beautiful. Okay, now we would look to undock here. We no longer require this fuel. Like I said, this stage, we really only need one of these stages. But here we are. So we're going to undock this. Beautiful. And we'll just let these slowly drift on apart here. It's going to be very, very slow indeed. So this is 50x speed, but that's fine. So there's our station, ready to go. Let's head on back to the Space Center. We should get a payment for that. I want to note that. How many visits were there to this station? Soyuz 14 and Soyuz 15? Yes. There were some uncrewed operations, but the station was deorbited. Yep. So 2 Soyuzes. Okay. Sounds good. So we're going to hop into the VAB here. We're going to need to send up a first Soyuz. And we'll look to rendezvous with that. We're going to target a lower orbit for sure. So our Soyuzes are similarly overbuilt. Let's load up our Soyuz here, but we do need to get that payment. So let's grab Soyuz. Okay. Let's get the payment. So we need to get 200,000 here. There we go. And we can launch this Soyuz basically anytime we want, which is right now. So we're going to launch this at the Woomerang launch site. I'm going to try to launch into a 51.7 degree inclination. It's probably not going to go well. We're probably going to need some corrective steering, but that's fine. Like, MechJeb definitely did a better job of putting us close than I'm going to. I think that's pretty obvious. But we'll see. This will be interesting. No doubt about it. Now that we know the approximate heading that we need to go on, we should be able to get close enough that corrective steering can get us there. That's the idea, anyway. So we don't want to use MechJeb for this one. I want to manually fly this. We're going to... Oh, this is actually centered. Cool. We're going to put this on kill rot, and we're going to throttle up. We should probably double-check our staging, but the Soyuz should be completely fine here. What's our thrust to weight? 1.55? Noted. Okay. Off we go. Cool. So we're going to get some verticality here. We definitely want to clear these mountains. It's very picturesque here. No doubt about that. The Woomerang launch site is very pretty. So we're going to want to launch, like, down this direction, right? So let's do a little bit of rolling to get ourselves on approximately the correct roll. There we go. We don't want to start a gravity turn just yet. We want to continue to let our apoapsis height build up. As we have been, we're going to be going for about 20-kilometer apoapsis. It's just a rule of thumb that I go by. It's probably not optimal, but that's okay. And of course, we're going to be burning out all of this eventually. But you can see here, the Soyuz already uses a mainsail in its center and skippers on the outside. We want to do the same thing with the Proton rocket that launches our station. We definitely know that first stage is a little bit underpowered, so that would be a good thing. And moving that fuel from that first poodle wouldn't be bad either. That is a theoretical option. Okay, so we want to start our gravity turn fairly soon here. Let's head on over. Right on about this 67-degree heading. I want to be in maneuver mode here, and let's get some orbital info. Okay, so we can see our inclination is currently like 45.5. That is why we're going in this heading, of course. And we want to be heading basically over this direction-ish. We're drifting downward a little more than I want. Okay. That was spicy. Not a great disconnect there. We want to limit this gimbal down to about 10%, as we did before. We definitely see some wiggling going on here, but that is relatively handled. Let's go to horizontal velocity up with Smart ASS here. We're already at an apoapsis of about 75 kilometers, right? So we need to get a lot of horizontal speed here. We can get rid of our fairing shortly. 48, 49, and 50 kilometers. Fairing is out of here. We're having a bit of a hard time steering over towards the horizon here. And we can see time to apoapsis is going down, so we absolutely want to keep burning here, but this is a much, much better thrust to weight ratio here. So our inclination is 49.4 right now and creeping upward. This seems like a reasonable heading to be burning on, although maybe we want to come this direction a little bit. We're a little bit off here. We need to get about 2 degrees in our inclination. So I'm going to go over to Killrot, and we're now in space, so that's great. We're going to just head on down over this direction. I want to get us into the correct inclination here. So we're just swapping our heading over. We want 51.6 degrees. So we're just going to burn here until we're at 51.6. So that's 51 degrees. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Shutting down the engine. We'll circularize at 121. Oh, this is... Yeah, timing. timing would cause problems with that. Okay, that's fine. We'll have to do an inclination change anyway. But now we know that we can launch into the correct inclination, and of course, timing is going to be a factor here. So we're going to have to match planes with our Salyut-3 anyway. But that was still an interesting exercise, no doubt about that. So this apoapsis is fine. That's completely okay for the moment. Let's just go to the node. 311.4 meters per second. So this stage here is not burned out yet. Man, this thing is overbuilt. Okay, so we've got this stage here, which is intended to be our orbital maneuvers stage, right? This is what's intended to get us to the station, and then this fuel here is intended to get us back from the station. That's the idea anyway. So we should probably consider decoupling this launch escape system right now. So we'll do that. Oh, actually, undocking that. That'll be necessary. This burn will happen in about 2 minutes. Let's get ourselves at least into a proper orbit here. So I'm going to physics warp here as we work on... Oh, that looks healthy. Definitely. I'm sure it's fine. And we need to extend our solar panels. We're probably running low on electricity. Yep, we're completely out. Luckily, we do have solar panels, so we're fine here. And there's our electric charge bringing itself up. Okay. Let's make our way on over here. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, mark. Okay, so this stage gets us into orbit. We do have a little bit excess fuel here. We can see our periapsis coming on up here. And we just want to be at, like, prograde. Okay, that'll do. So we get into orbit, and we'll ditch this with the 303 meters per second in it. Then, of course, we're going to set Salyut-3 as our... Not the debris. We're going to set Salyut-3 as our target. So we're going to have to change our inclination, no doubt about that. This is because while we launched into the correct 51.6 degree inclination, of course, we didn't take into effect the timing. So our phasing is wrong here, so we're going to have to modify our inclination by 25.6 degrees, which is pretty extreme, but luckily we have this thing massively overbuilt, so it doesn't actually matter, and we can do something along the lines of that. We'll need to toss in some retrograde, though. Okay, so that's 1.1. Let's get some retrograde in there. Yeah, this is a little bit overshooty at this point. I want to continue to keep our apoapsis about where it is. Okay. Yeah, awkwardness definitely ensues here. So let's change our timing a little bit. That looks much better for timing. Yes. Okay. And then from here, we can definitely do an intercept. It might take a few phasing orbits, but that seems good. But that is also a job for next episode. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Shadow Wolf, Andy McGar, Spartan News, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Soccerman12 UK, Kentogan, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.